Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison LaGrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. Air India completes precautionary checks on the fuel control switch locking mechanism in all of its Boeing 787 and 737 aircraft. Says no issues found with the system linked to last month's Ahmedabad crash. The Indian Army receives its first batch of Apache attack helicopters from the United States, a major boost to the operational capabilities of New Delhi's forces in the region. Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba faces mounting calls to resign from senior leaders of his Liberal Democratic Party after the ruling coalition suffered a major setback in the upper house elections. Sri Lanka sacks its police chief for the first time ever following a parliamentary impeachment that finds him guilty of running a criminal network. And all eyes on Washington, D.C. as the visiting Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. looks set to meet the U.S. President Donald Trump with the focus on tariff reprieve and security cooperation amid Beijing's aggression in the Indo-Pacific. Hello and welcome. We begin with a naval power play unfolding in the Indo-Pacific. 4 Indian warships are slicing through the South China Sea on a mission that's both strategic and symbolic. They are set to hold separate drills with 3 countries, Vietnam, Malaysia and the Philippines, all locked in bitter maritime disputes with Beijing. The Indian naval flotilla, led by Rear Admiral Susheel Menon, has just wrapped up a port call in Singapore and is now heading into the heart of the South China Sea for a series of bilateral exercises. But this isn't just about naval handshakes and flags on masts. The drills are happening barely 3 weeks after the Quad foreign ministers meeting in Washington, D.C. A statement from that gathering set the tone. Strong opposition to unilateral actions by China. Serious concern over provocations, including Coast Guard clashes, militarized island features, as well as an unequivocal backing for the 2016 International Tribunal ruling that struck down China's claims over most of the South China Sea. The Indian Navy's flotilla includes 4 heavyweights: the INS Delhi, a guided missile destroyer, the INS Satpura, a stealth frigate, the INS Kiltan, designed for anti-submarine warfare, and the INS Shakti, a fleet tanker capable of mid-sea refueling. India's warships aren't just traveling to friendly ports. They are sailing through waters where Chinese vessels have repeatedly blocked, rammed and sprayed water cannons at their neighbors. And the mission's goals are precise: intelligence sharing with partner nations, joint surveillance and multilateral maritime coordination aimed at securing freedom of navigation, the very principle that China's actions have threatened. But here's what sets this mission apart. India isn't just flexing military muscle. It's leveraging years of diplomacy. To the Philippines, India has already delivered BrahMos missiles. To Vietnam, it has gifted warships, trained submarine crews, and backed them with a $300 million defense credit line. And with Malaysia, India is helping keep their Sukhois in the air, while also sharing hydrographic intelligence through regular port calls, meaning New Delhi's ties with these nations aren't new. But now they are becoming strategic bulwark in the face of Beijing's expansionist claims in the region. In recent years, China has built artificial islands, militarized reefs, posted flags on a territory not its own, while intimidating fishing vessels in the South China Sea. But now, with New Delhi's signature all over it, the Chinese counterweight in the Indo-Pacific, backed by Quad, is highly coordinated. India's message is clear. The South China Sea isn't China's sea, and New Delhi, along with its Quad partners, isn't going to watch from the shores anymore. The big question now, will this emerging security gridlock deter Beijing or trigger a new maritime showdown? Time and tides will tell. Imagine this. You lose your job in the US and have 60 days to find a new one. Suddenly, you are handed a deportation notice. This is what's happening to various H-1B visa holders in the US, including Indians. Deportation notices are being served within the 60-day legal grace period, the period the law gives you to find another job or pack your bags. Immigration lawyers are sounding the alarm. Dylan Colucci, a partner at Greenberg Torrig LLP, flagged the issue first. Avisha Parikh, another US-based lawyer, confirmed it through a social media post. Now, these are NTAs, notices to appear before an immigration judge, the beginning of deportation proceedings, even if you are staying legally in the country. If we talk about the legal route, here's what's supposed to happen in cases where an H-1B visa holder loses their job. You lose your job and you are allowed to stay in the US for 60 days. Within these 60 days, you need to find an employer and transfer your H-1B visa. You can also switch your immigration status, say you become a B2 visitor. Or the third option, you can leave the US voluntarily. Now, during this time, you are legally present, no gray area. So why are legal residents being treated like violators? Reports say it may have something to do with a new US Citizenship and Immigration Services Policy memo that was released in February of this year. It expanded the situation where a person can be issued an NTA. The memorandum stated that the US CIS, the ICE, and CBP all have the authority to issue NTAs. And here's the kicker. American immigration law allows the Department of Homeland Security to eliminate or shorten the 60-day period at discretion. However, there has been no official change to the grace period. Now, this puts skilled professionals at risk of deportation before they've done anything wrong. And guess who hurts the most? Indians. Around 70% of all H-1B visas issued by the US between October of 2022 and September of 2023 were to Indians. Tech workers, engineers, healthcare professionals. People who have spent years building a life in America. Workers who already face scrutiny over Donald Trump's tighter visa rules. And now they are receiving these threats while staying within their legal rights. NTAs are mostly being issued in situations where someone may not be in the non-immigrant status. Now, non-immigrant refers to the temporary stay of foreign nationals for specific purposes. An NTA can be issued even if one is awaiting pending applications to adjust their immigration status. Another case could be when someone filed change of status applications slightly late, triggering action. Now, this might just be the beginning. Donald Trump has promised a tougher crackdown on immigration, and he isn't holding back. His administration has emphasized that holding a visa is a privilege, not a right, and that could mean more NTAs, more deportation notices, and more chaos for Indian workers in the US. And North Korea is building a warship, its third 5,000-ton destroyer. Reports say Russia is helping them develop it. Pyongyang is reportedly turning to Moscow to boost its naval power. The new warship is a part of a plan to build vessels that can carry tactical nuclear weapons. The deadline is the 10th of October 2026, the founding day of the ruling Workers' Party. The warship is a part of the Cho Haeong class, North Korea's largest destroyers to date. The first was launched in April. The second was destroyed, followed in May, but it ran aground, drawing international ridicule. However, it was later salvaged and named the Kangkong, with a relaunch ceremony held on the 12th of June. And now comes the third destroyer. A rally was held at Nampo shipyard to mark its commencement. Workers, engineers, and top party officials were present, and construction began right after. The previous warships were constructed in less than a year. Warships in the 5,000 to 8,000 ton class typically take 18 to 24 months to build. Now, construction on this new ship is starting around 14 months in advance, and North Korea's fast-paced speed battle approach is likely to continue, signaling the urgent need for the regime to power up its navy. North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, wants 2 of these destroyers built every year starting 2026. Kim has made his goals clear. He wants warships that can launch nuclear weapons. He wants to redraw maritime boundaries, and he wants to erase the northern limit line, the de facto sea border with South Korea. Experts say North Korea is doing all of this to compensate for its weak navy as compared to that of its neighbor South Korea. His actions signal possible moves to establish a new maritime boundary. To achieve these goals, it needs a strong navy presence, a credible one, and that's where Russia steps in. According to reports, Moscow may be helping North Korea not just with resources, but with technical support. For North Korea, securing a viable platform for maritime nuclear strikes is widely seen as difficult without Russia's technical support. For Russia, North Korea lends a helping hand by deploying thousands of troops to help Moscow fight in Ukraine. The Kim-Putin partnership is making strides, not just militarily. North Korea has reportedly supplied over 12 million rounds of ammunition to Russia since last October. In return, it is receiving cash, supplies, and technology. There's apparently a $100 million road bridge coming up, and reports state that Russia is planning to revive a 10,000-kilometer rail line between Moscow and Pyongyang. North Korean products, from sausages to accordions, are registering trademarks in Russia. And Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov recently met with Kim Jong-un in North Korea, where the latter reaffirmed his unconditional support for Putin. So it's trade, culture, and infrastructure, and military cooperation quietly expanding. North Korea is building warships, Russia is handing over the tools. Together, these nations are redrawing red lines at sea and beyond. And finally, shifting focus to Pakistan, where 14 people have been arrested in connection with the public killing of a couple in the country's restive Balochistan province. The incident, widely described as an honor killing, came to national attention only after a graphic video of the murders went viral online. The victims, Bano Bibi and Ahsan Ullah, were accused of having an affair and marrying without the consent of their families. According to the police, the killings were ordered by a local tribal chief and carried out by several men, including, reportedly, Bano's own brother. The viral video shows the murdered woman being given a copy of the Holy Quran, then shot at close range. The man is then killed, and both bodies are fired upon again while lying on the ground, as the footage of the brutal murders went viral. A nationwide outrage followed. Within hours, the government confirmed several arrests, including that of the tribal chief. A court has now ordered the exhumation of the bodies for autopsy. According to the provincial government, more suspects are still being tracked. Honor killings remain a serious human rights issue in Pakistan. More than 32,000 cases of gender-based violence were reported nationwide in 2024, including 547 instances of honor killings. Activists say the real number is much higher due to underreporting. In most cases, victims are women and the perpetrators are family members or community elders who claim to be protecting cultural or tribal values. Rights groups say tribal leaders, many of whom also hold political office, continue to exercise parallel justice systems in rural areas, especially in Balochistan, Sindh and parts of Punjab. Now, Balochistan has long seen a complex mix of tribal authority, military presence, all in the shadow of a prevailing separatist sentiment against the Pakistani state. The region has faced decades of insurgency, with ethnic Baloch groups accusing Islamabad of economic exploitation and political marginalization. Women in Balochistan face compounded risks from both traditional tribal structures and state-led crackdowns on dissent. Activists say the state has often ignored gender-based violence in the region unless pressure builds publicly. Now, the Pakistani government says those responsible for the recent killings will be prosecuted. But critics point out that without systemic legal reform and without dismantling parallel tribal justice systems, such crimes will likely continue. For now, the outrage may have forced action, but whether that leads to a lasting change in Balochistan remains to be seen. And that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Firstpost.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most.